Utilitarianism, Part 1, Jeremy Bentham. To review, when evaluating any theory of justice, Sandel wants us to keep the following in mind. That is, to ask whether a society is just is to ask how it distributes the things that we prize, income and wealth, duties, rights and opportunities, offices and honors. A just society distributes these goods in the right way. It gives each person his or her due. Jeremy Bentham lived from 1748 to 1832. He was a social reformer advocating welfare reform, prison reform, the right for women to own property, and an equal right with men to seek divorce, among other things. He is considered the founder of the social ethical theory known as utilitarianism. What you are looking at is Bentham's auto-icon, that is, his skeleton dressed in his clothes and stuffed with straw. You should also be looking at his embalmed head as well, but that job was botched, so what you are seeing is a wax reproduction. The head was, for many decades, kept in a box under the chair, and also, for many decades, Bentham's mortal remains were kept in a closet of the Board of Trustees room in the University College of London. Unfortunately, it seemed to be a college rite of passage to break into the closet and steal the head. Bentham's auto-icon has since been moved to a protected glass display in the College Student Center. Bentham observed the following. The more good a person is, the better off that person is. The more people with a high level of good things, the better off everybody is. The level of goodness for individuals increases with the increase of general welfare. And so he concluded that one should act in such a way as to maximize the most good for the most people. The first point seems straightforward enough. The second and third are more subtle. Consider the following aphorism. A rising tide lifts all boats. The idea is more than just more people are happy when the sum of total happiness increases, but that when good things happen to one person, it tends to run off. And the inverse, that raising the good for people in general promotes social cohesion so that each person is happier. So then, what is the good? For Bentham, the good must be empirical and objective. He was a fierce critic of the notion of inherent, inalienable, or self-evident human rights. He called the idea nonsense on stilts. In fact, he wrote a pamphlet that ridiculed the American Declaration of Independence, taking special aim at its preamble. So, if life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are not empirical, objective, or measurable, what is? Bentham's answer? Pleasure. Ethics is about maximizing pleasure and minimizing distress to the greatest extent possible. Free people tend to be happy people. Any idea about what freedom comes down to for Bentham is that freedom comes down to A, doing what one pleases, and B, a lack of coercion. Because freedom is a great source of pleasure, Bentham was a strong advocate of civil and religious freedom. Just a heads up as we're going through the rest of Sandel. Keep track of how the idea of freedom and individual liberty plays out as we move forward. So what is attractive about utilitarianism? Well, first, it is straightforward and has an almost scientific air of objectivity about it. If one figures out what promotes the most pleasure for the most people, one has a common standard upon which everyone can agree. It is also egalitarian. It really does apply to everyone equally. I have no more right to happiness than you. Men have no more claim upon it than women. One cannot claim that white people deserve happiness any more than people of color. And from a utilitarian point of view, it doesn't matter who you love. What matters is that happiness is maximized overall for the most possible people. On the other hand, there is no distinction in Bentham's calculation. Pushing someone in the way of the trolley or stepping in front of the trolley to save five people has the same moral value as pulling the lever and sacrificing one person. For that matter, saving one person, either by inaction or because one person is more valuable to you at the expense of the five, would be morally suspect. Sandel has other examples. Look through those on pages 37 through 40. Remember that Bentham thought that the idea of individual rights was so much nonsense. As such, freedom and individual liberty are good only to the point in which they have utility. Another issue is that it takes disparate or uneven pleasures and treats them all as the same. So, what do you think about Sandel's example of treating ethics on a cost-benefit analysis?